Your key economic indicators, second quarter 2019, out this morning, and it seems to me that we may actually have more leverage than we think.
Yeah, look, there's a mixed message from the data, but on the top line, you're actually seeing improvement. People have been very gloomy about China. They've been gloomy about trade, and that has something to do with it. But essentially, you have anecdotal snippets coming out of China that this is wrong and that's wrong, and people are panicked, and that's caused this idea that China's once again on this precipitous downslope. It's not. Now the improvement from the first quarter to the second quarter is quite clear. Now, there's reasons for this. You've got a very active credit situation right now, but the idea that the Chinese economy is falling off the table right before the talks, that's just not happening.
So when you think about the leverage points in this, who's got the upper hand at this point in the game?
Look, the U.S. will always have the upper hand on this because they have the stronger trade relationship, and President Trump could get through with some hiccups if he wanted to put tariffs on the Chinese economy and just suffer through the re-election. It could happen. It would be much, much tougher for Xi, particularly because Huawei and all the Chinese technology companies are under attack right now. So Xi would have a very hard time if they moved away from the table, which means Trump has more leverage. But again, we know Trump wants a deal and Trump wants a roaring stock market. So
are you surprised that there hasn't been a greater trickle-down effect in China relative to the numbers that you seem to?
Well, keep in mind, our numbers are days old. So they're days old. A lot of the negative monthly data that's come out recently is official data, and that's usually several months lag behind ours. So we would expect an upturn in the not-too-distant future, simply because you are seeing so much of the tightness on credit that we've seen in the past reversed, first through broad borrowing in the first quarter, and now through the return of shadow banks, which is a big, big deal.
And we used to talk about shadow banking all the time in China and about how that was going to effectively take down the country eventually in a sort of financial crisis of massive proportions. Do you still have any worry about that?
Sure, but that's a problem for another day. Today, we let them back in, they create growth, and everything is good. So, when people were talking about deleveraging, that wasn't deleveraging in the past. It was a crackdown on shadow finance, and you saw that, and now that is being undone.
But why is the shadow banking business back in business in China?
Because the Chinese are preparing for the worst-case scenario this year. At this point, looks like you're going to get a reset at Osaka, like we've been saying for many, many weeks. You're going to move towards a trade deal, which there's a very good chance of getting. But if they don't get that, they're preparing their economy for being able to cushion the fallout. And the fallout would be significant with $500 billion. So
you think that the reintroduction, if you will, I don't know if we're calling it a reintroduction, of this sort of shadow banking system, these money market programs that are guaranteeing things that make no sense whatsoever. Do you think that's a centrally planned operation, or do you think that that was a market-driven event that has happened because a handful of financial players are starting to introduce those products again?
No. This is Beijing deciding. There was a lot of equivocation last fall. Do we continue on the path of a little bit of restructuring, a little bit of reform, a little bit of deleveraging, or do we batten down the hatches and protect our economy against Trump's trade war? The decision was made with really bad data in the fourth quarter last year that we are going all out to protect the economy, and you still see that. And that is so if you see a turn up in the trade discussions, then the Chinese have prepared themselves for worst case scenario, and you may have a better glide path.
Quick crystal ball. If we have you on the air on Monday morning, what are you going to be telling everybody? What are we going to say happened?
Well, they're going to reset talks. They're going to punt on all the tariffs. And you're going to have this glide path to a deal if they want it.
Punt meaning they're going to get rid of the tariffs?
So they're not taking off the old tariffs unless the president gets really excited in his meeting and decides to pull back something. That's not what the White House is planning. The White House is planning to punt on the entire next tranche of tariffs, which they have tentatively scheduled to go into effect July 1st at 25%.
But Eunice just told us the Chinese condition is that we take off the existing tariffs, too.
Right. For a deal, they have to take it. Yeah. So for an ultimate deal, months down the line, that will be in discussion. That's one of the final points. It's final sticking points. But in terms of resetting at Osaka, they're going to have to put Huawei on the table, either implicitly or explicitly, and they're going to have to punt on all the tariffs, and that's currently what the White House is planning to do.